Hi. And yes, hi, we are officially live. So thank you all for joining us tonight. I am Katie Murphy. I'm the Director of Development and Communications here at the Alliance for Florida's National Parks. And why are we here tonight? Well, the Parktails Summer Series is an expansion of an event that we did back in April, which, as I'm sure you can guess, was called Parktails. But that was a ticketed invite-only event, and the stories and programs that we have going on with these national parks is just way too cool to keep to ourselves and to keep behind the ticketed wall. So we wanted to launch a free summer series so that anyone can join us and so that we can kind of just tell the world about all of these programs that we are participating in. But if you're new here, the Alliance for Florida's National Parks has been around for almost 20 years. We were formerly known as the South Florida National Parks Trust, but over the course of the time that we have been around, we have distributed almost $10 million in funding to our national parks. And the biggest area of support is what we're going to be discussing here tonight. To kick off our Parktails Summer Series, we are going to be talking about youth environmental education. And to help us get the conversation going, I have a few special ladies here with me tonight. We have Vette from Everglades National Park. She is the Director of Education over there. We have Lisa Andrews, who is the Outreach and Environmental Coordinator for Big Cypress National Preserve. We have Carrie Scott, Education Director of Biscayne National Park. And we also have Paula Nelson-Shokar, who is an educator with Miami-Dade County Schools and is also the Science Department Chair. So ladies, I'm going to give each of you guys a chance to introduce yourselves to everyone at home, and I'm going to kick it off with Yvette.
Well, thank you, Katie. Good evening, everyone. My name again is Yvette Cano, and I am with Everglades National Park. I have been in Everglades officially this month 11 years, and probably the best 11 years of my life. My career actually started as a teacher in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. I participated in the very programs I now supervise, but if you trace it back just a tiny bit more, not too many years, I actually started as a sixth grader participating in these programs. So talk about coming full circle. This is my dream job. It gives me such an honor to bring children to the park. And I always tell everyone they're never getting rid of me. So happy to be here tonight. And thank you, Katie.
And Lisa, what about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Andrews. I'm the Outreach and Education Coordinator over at Big Cypress National Preserve. I spent most of my life going back and forth between Southern Indiana and South Florida over on the Naples side. And we spent a lot of time out here in Big Cypress, bird watching and fishing in the canals and tromping through the swamp with my mom. And I guess it kind of stuck because this is where I always wanted to be. And later in life, when I started to work for the National Park Service, I came back here, got a job as a seasonal park ranger. And I worked at Big Cypress in the summers and over at Everglades in the winters for 3 years. And after bouncing around at some other national parks in our country, I came back here as the education coordinator in 1994. And I've been here ever since. And now I'm taking people out tromping through the swamp, looking at the birds and all the beautiful things that are out here. So that's kind of my story.
And Carrie, what about you?
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you today. My name is Carrie Scott, and I'm the new one in the just arrived here in Southern Florida this summer and we're getting acclimated. But I originally grew up in Michigan, spent my summers camping and picking blueberries and doing outdoors things. I first fell in love with the national parks in college when I had the opportunity to go out west, and the place that really hit it home for me was Grand Teton National Park and Yellowstone, of course. But after that, I was hooked. I began my career at Crater Lake National Park in Oregon, spent a couple winters at Death Valley National Park in California, 3 amazing summers and school years at Acadia National Park, a winter at Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument, and then 4 amazing years leading the education programs at Canyonland National Park. After that, I had a family and I took a little break from the Park Service. I married someone who works for the Forest Service. So I ended up switching over to the Forest Service, had a 10-year interval in recreation planning, and just really enjoyed that. But my heart truly is with the national parks. And the blessing for me over this past year is that my husband's job went virtual and we were free to pursue again employment with the National Park Service. So Biscayne is our new home and we are loving it.
Awesome. Well, welcome to your new home. And Paula, tell us about yourself. And you're on mute, Paula.
My apologies. Good evening, everyone. My name is Paula Nelson Shokar, and I am a mother of 2 amazing kids, a wife of a supportive husband. I'm a science middle school teacher. I also teach technology, drone aviation, and all kinds of cool stuff like that, and robotics. And I'm also the science department chair. I have been going from national parks across the nation and across Canada ever since I was a kid. So I've always loved national parks. And my mother was a 6th grade science teacher and she took her kids camping every year, but I refused. That was the one thing I couldn't do. Like I would never camp. That was out of my comfort zone. I can go during the day, but I couldn't go at night. But guess what? That has all changed. And I take my students every year. It's the best thing that ever happened. And I absolutely love it. And like my mom, I too am a lover of the Everglades and all national parks.
Awesome. Well, you are obviously in great company tonight because we all love the national parks too. So again, thank you ladies for being here tonight and participating in this roundtable. For those of you at home that would like to get in on the conversation, there is actually a chat box to the right, and shout out to Arlen, who has already found the chat box and sent a shout out to Lisa. So Lisa, Arlen says hi. But for anybody else that would like to send a comment, send a question, please feel free to do so. We will leave a few minutes at the tail end of the conversation for Q&A, so you can pop your question in as we go. You can hold off until the end, whatever you want to do, that's cool with us. But also to your right, you'll see a little donate button. And of course, this event is free for anyone to attend, but if anything you hear tonight inspires you and you would like to turn that inspiration into action in the form of a donation, we would obviously love that so that we can keep programs like the Youth Environmental Education Program going strong and going long. So now, Yvette, tell me, what is youth environmental education anyway? What would a lesson traditionally look like at Everglades National Park? Or is there even like a traditional lesson in Everglades National Park? I would imagine that things, you just gotta kind of take them as they come when you're out there in the wilderness.
Well, first of all, Katie, I heard you say environmental education. And while for many, many years, well, Everglades education has been around for 50 years. This is our 50th anniversary. But for many years, we've been environmental education. And, you know, in the past couple of years, we've had an opportunity to highlight people's stories. And we're really digging into that opportunity. So we're moving more towards saying Everglades education. And we're excited to tell those little pieces of history, because as we know, Everglades National Park since 1947 was set aside for biological diversity. Yeah, a little bit of people history, but the plants and the animals really took the star there. So we're telling those people's stories. Now, as far as our programs are concerned, we are curriculum based. We have our standards, primarily 4th, 5th, and 6th grade that we hit. We also work with high school students. If they come experience the Everglades on the Anhinga Trail or Shark Valley, we're looking at the watershed, which is a big umbrella topic for our 4th graders. And in 5th grade, we're looking at succession and adaptations. And that's a big one there. Our high school programs in the Nike missile base, we're looking at immigration and Cold War, also big topics there.
That is awesome. And so you mentioned 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. So you serve a wide range of students. If a teacher is listening tonight and they say, this would be awesome for my class. How would a teacher or a classroom or a principal, or how would an educator get involved with you guys?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. We always love new educators and new classrooms to become involved. And, with COVID, we obviously are adding a new component of virtual education, as I think we have all realized that probably is not going to go away. It's a great way to experience the outdoors in a different way, especially if you can't get out to the park. We always want them to come out, and that's really the biggest takeaway, where you get that aha moment. But if you can't, we also have virtual education. With that being said, registration opens the Friday before school starts for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. This year it is August 20th. And if you're interested in getting on our database, you send us an email, and we will share that email address at the end, where you can just let us know you want to be on our database, and we will send you all kinds of information for registration. And you got to get there early. Registration day, Katie, has been called Black Friday. If you can imagine, 15 minutes and we're packed. So you got to get in there early and make sure you register.
That is awesome. Well, I definitely hope you get some more interest tonight. But shifting it over to Paula, because Paula, you've actually brought classes to the Everglades for this program. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, our school is closely located to the Everglades. And the reason why I bring that up is because even though the Everglades is literally in our backyard, our kids don't get to go under normal circumstances. Their families don't go down there. So being that we are advocates for the Everglades, we find it important to take our kids so they'll know what is in our backyard. So each year we take our kids out camping. Me, the one that used to be afraid of camping. We take our kids out camping in the Everglades because I don't want them to grow up and be like me. I want them to grow up and become the person that I later became. And they have an absolutely great time. And they remember that they are in close proximity to the Everglades. And so they go from being a little fearful at first, because they're always afraid, because remember, these are city kids. At least they think they're big city kids. And then they become stewards of the Everglades.
That is awesome. And yes, I am also a late in life camper, but now it's forever changed my life. And I'm here to tout all the benefits of being outdoors and camping in particular. So what do you think is some of the greatest benefits for kids being outdoors in nature in this way?
Well, there are several great benefits. And like I said, our kids are city kids, so they get to learn how to go out and hike. They go sluice logging. They love canoeing. And not only that, I mean, they get down to some serious work. They have to learn how to problem solve, work as a team to problem solve. They learn environmental education, and they understand how the environment is important for us to save. And yes, I am a science teacher, but they get to encompass everything when we are out there in the Everglades. And it also helps me. I am a huge proponent of science field studies. I feel that any learner needs to be out in the field. So if you're going to learn about the structure and function of plants and animals, you need to be out there to do that. So it is an extension of my classroom. So my classroom is not the four walls. It includes the outside. It includes the outdoors. So as many scientists, meaning MINI, they get to go out and collect data and analyze data out in the field in the Everglades.
That is so awesome. But Lisa, so the program at Big Cypress National Preserve, it's structured a bit differently in terms of who can participate. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Our program is called SWAMP, and that stands for Swamp Water and Me Program. It's for every 6th grade science student in the public schools and 4 of the private schools in Collier County. And we see about 3,000 students each year. It's part of a larger program within the Collier County School District, the Field Trip Specialist Program. And that's been around for over 20 years. It's comprised of several different environmental agencies and organizations that are over here in Collier County. And every one of us agencies has taken a different grade level. We've developed programs that focus on our watershed, and these programs complement each other up the grade levels. So we took 6th grade and we see all the 6th graders, and it's part of their curriculum. It's actually built into their curriculum guide. So it's just a little bit different.
And during these lessons, a lot of ground is covered, both literally and figuratively, because there's so many different types of ecosystems within Big Cypress, just as there is within Everglades National Park. So how do you fit so much into such a short amount of time?
I wish we had more time. As you probably know, Big Cypress is a big mosaic of habitats. And during our field trips, the students go through 3 of those. The cypress swamp, where sometimes they're up to their rear ends or higher in water, swamp water, wading right through it. We go through the prairie and we go through the pine lands. And in each of those habitats, we do a variety of experiments using all kinds of scientific equipment and collecting data on the hydrosphere, the atmosphere, the geosphere. We talk about fire in the environment and touch a little bit on animals and plants, but mostly the earth sciences. And from October through March, we have a team that works with us that are seasonal park rangers. They come down just for that 6-month period. Also interns and volunteers, and they lead the groups out through those 3 habitats. They assist the kids with their experiments and of course manage the groups and keep them safe. And before they come out for their field trips, our team goes into the classrooms to do a pre-site program. The teachers also have all of our resources that they're plugging in throughout the school year to help prepare and reinforce the kids before and after their field trips. It's a lot of information. It's a lot to take in, and we only have 1 day to get them out here. And when we went virtual, which we'll probably talk about a little later, we had to condense that whole field trip day into a 46-minute class period. So I guess our job in that short amount of time is just to spark that interest. And like Paula said, hope they'll make a connection and want to be stewards in the future.
So awesome. And yes, for those at home that don't know, I have shadowed Lisa and her team out in the field doing the virtual 46-minute lesson, and it is quite something to witness the teams all going at once into the 3 different habitats and then pinging back and forth into the classroom so that the kids have quite an immersive experience despite not actually being in the park. It's really, really something else. But then, of course, over at Biscayne National Park, we have totally different ecosystems and different habitats. So, Carrie, I know that you've only been here for a short time, but could you tell me kind of what a traditional lesson at Biscayne National Park might look like for students?
Sure. One of the activities that we've developed is inviting students to come to our Park Visitor Center at Convoy Point. We have a program called Biscayne Explorer. So kids arrive on the bus and we are able to do some awesome hands-on activities right there in Biscayne Bay. We're able to use seine nets and dip nets to collect some creatures to take a close look at. And also we have a fabulous, its nickname is the Think Tank. It's a classroom at Biscayne where we're able to use microscopes to look at zooplankton, the little tiny animals, and phytoplankton, the little tiny plants that live in seawater. So that's an activity that's been going on for a long time. Also, we have a camping program, Biscayne Expedition, which goes out to Elliott Key and allows kids to spend time overnight on the island. And then what I'm working on, hopefully for this fall, are some distance learning options, because there's still that uncertainty about where we're going to be at with field trips. So we're working on some good visuals and ways that we can actually get connectivity out in the park so that we can share ecosystem programs. So discovering Biscayne Bay, looking closer at the mangrove forests, and then more about Florida Keys and coral reefs. So we're hoping to be able to offer that for schools this fall.
That is so awesome. I'm definitely eager to see what you guys cook up for the new school year. But bringing it back to the swamp for a second. So Yvette, you actually kind of referenced this earlier, but the Everglades education program had a pretty big milestone recently, its 50th anniversary. So with such a long running program, I'm sure that you run into people all the time who, when you tell them what you do, they're like, I've done that. Like, it's such a small world, right? Like big city, millions of people live here in Miami, but it's still such a small world. So you were actually one of those kids, though. You came through the program and now you work for the park. So can you talk about your experience for a minute?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Katie. It's so much fun because whether you're standing in line at, a supermarket, or you go through a drive-through at a coffee place, it inevitably you will always have someone when they see the uniform, and they'll look at you and say, where do you work? And you reference, Everglades or the national park. And then they go back, do you have programs with tents? Like they have this visual, but they can't put their finger on it. And sure enough, you see the spark light up in their eyes. And when we just say, yeah, you came to our programs, it's really wonderful to meet someone who has come through our programs and they still have that memory, whether they're older and they came as a matter of fact, just this week, I received an email of a man who came and participated in programs and wanted to bring his son to show him where he camped, and he came in the 80s. So talk about leaving a lasting impression. It really is such a wonderful program, that camping program, because it offers that immersive experience. Some of these kids have never left home. This is the first time they're away from home, and they're camping in the dark, and they hear the owls, and they're with their friends, and they have to clean up and do teamwork and have all these fun activities. It leaves a lasting impression. And indeed, it left a lasting impression for me. I vividly remember giggling through the swamp while we were sluice logging. I thought it was the best thing, but I thought I was somehow going to disappear. Clearly, I didn't. And it won my heart over.
That is awesome. Yeah. I mean, for a program to have generational impact, like that's what everyone hopes for. And you guys are actually achieving that. I mean, the point is to get these kids out there so that they truly do become lifelong stewards, and they want to bring their kids, and that their kids bring their kids. And it's this domino effect. So to know that that is actually happening, to have these stories, I mean, it's really something amazing. And I was actually out with Lisa recently. We had a little exclusive excursion for one of our major donors to go look at the ghost orchids. And as we're driving to Lisa's secret spot, we were talking to this gentleman and his girlfriend, and both of them had come through the swamp program at Big Cypress, which was something like really awesome. But Lisa, you actually created the education program at Big Cypress, is that correct?
Right. Previously, before I got here, there wasn't an education program. And so when I came back in this position, I developed the swamp program. And yes, it does make me feel old when I meet previous swamp scientists these days. This will be the 22nd season of the program. And like Yvette, I run into people in Naples all the time who had either been in the program as a 6th grader, or they came as a chaperone, or they were a teacher back in the day, and they remember the program when they see us out there. In fact, 2 of our teachers last year, they were brand new teachers, and they were then bringing, although they didn't get to bring them, but we did them virtually into their classroom. And they were so excited to share that experience with their kids, and they had been swamp scientists. And we have a science department chair also in town that had been through our program. So it is, like Yvette said, so fun, so exciting, so rewarding to hear those stories and meet those people. And to see what they're doing now. Some of them are teachers, science teachers, some of them have gone into science-related careers, and we don't get a chance to really follow them, but when we hear those stories, it's kind of neat.
That is so awesome. And Carrie, you're coming to us with a wealth of experience from other national parks. Have you ever experienced something like this in one of your previous iterations where like you've run into someone that has come through the program as a child and now they're back, or they had this kind of like previous experience and now they're bringing their kids, they're bringing their nieces and nephews, they just got to get everyone else involved?
Definitely. I had the opportunity while I was at Canyonlands National Park to work with our Youth Corps program. And some of my, I think, strongest connections come from the youth that were part of that program. We had a 10-week program where they were doing work at the national parks in Southeast Utah. And today, let's see, one of them is leading guided tours on Navajo land. She's a tribal member, and she and her husband lead guided tours to help people understand the beauty of that place. I have a student that is now working for NASA and has still some connections with the national park. And I have 2 former interns that are still working with the national park that went on to become park rangers. So just the formative years are a really important time as kids are making those decisions about their future careers. So we're excited to, through the education program, introduce kids to places like Everglades and Big Cypress and Biscayne.
That is so awesome. Thank you. And so we've talked a lot tonight about a traditional year, a typical lesson, but we know this past year has been anything but traditional or typical. So Lisa, what were your thoughts when you heard that the 2021 school year was not going to be able to be held in person, that your lessons could not take place in person? What went through your mind?
Plan B. In March, when things started shutting down, I knew I had to think of a plan B and a plan C and D and have lots of options. And things changed throughout the whole summer. So I knew it was probably going to have to go virtual. We've done some distant learning programs in the past, but never anything like this before. So over the summer, I started adapting our pre-site program and our field trip programs to be done virtually on iPads, live from the field on WebEx into our school system. And we had a ranger and an iPad in all of those 3 habitats I talked about. And I worked with the curriculum specialists from the district all summer, worked with their IT staff from the district. They came out and made sure we had service where we take the kids. They went to each classroom and boosted their connections throughout the school year. So I had a lot of support from them. And of course, we all worked together very well, and my dear friend Yvette gave me all kinds of great advice on equipment that they were using, so I kind of stole some ideas from her. And we supplied each teacher with all the scientific equipment that our rangers use while they're out in the field that the kids would normally use when they're on the field trips. They had that same equipment in their classroom. So they could work along in the classroom with that equipment right along with our rangers who were doing it in the field. And some of them, when we do our dissolved oxygen test or check the pH, they could do that in their aquarium in the classroom and compare to what we're getting, or to do it in the sink in their lab. So we supplied all that equipment to them. And then when school started in the fall, about half of our kids in Collier County were in school, and about half were either at home or in our eCollier school, the virtual school. I have to say that all of that equipment that we bought was purchased by the Alliance. Everything we got, the tripods, everything that we used to go virtual was supplied by the Alliance. So thank you very much.
It was definitely our pleasure. And Yvette, what about you? Did you have kind of the same thoughts of like having to come up with like this full alphabet of like backup plans? Like how did the Everglades program have to pivot in this 2021 pandemic school year?
Absolutely. Same as Lisa, right? Plan A through Z and backwards. You know, honestly, Katie, for me, the biggest importance, being a former educator, what I knew that the students were missing was that social emotional connection, right? We were all locked down. This is new for all of us. And these children we know were missing a lot, whether they were at home alone because parents had to work, or whether the situation in their home was less than what it should have been, right? I knew that we needed to connect to them to bring them a little piece of what I called normal, even if it was just for an hour. And at the moment, I didn't know what that looked like. But along with my team, we set out to the field. We tested cellular signal all throughout the park. We tried to make sure where connectivity was best so that we can showcase the flora and the fauna and even Nike missile, so that we can allow the kids, again, that window into normalcy where they can laugh or dance or sing, and the national park or natural areas provided that for them, because then I wanted in turn for them to look at their backyard a little differently, to say, well, maybe I can go outside and it'll make me feel better. Maybe I can, go to a local park and breathe the fresh air, or look at the sawgrass if I go into Everglades National Park, and so on and so forth. So like Lisa, the Alliance set us off on the right foot with amazing equipment. And we were so excited to be able to connect with, oh my goodness, should I share the number?
Yeah, please.
Almost 40,000 students. This season, and we still have programs going through the summer. So this virtual platform has allowed us to continue to broadcast the park in less than favorable times, because unless you're a park ranger or a teacher ranger teacher, or someone who really decides you want to wear a bug jacket, usually Everglades is not like the most popular place in the summer. But that's okay, because we can still show them the beauty, because it sure is just as beautiful in the summer. And we're still able to connect to those kids.
That is so awesome. And you mentioned dancing earlier, and I'm not going to make you do it right now in front of everybody. But if anyone wants to see Yvette do that famous habitat dance, please go to our Instagram. We're on Instagram, National Parks FL. But there is the cutest clip of Yvette doing the habitat dance for an education lesson that was pinged to a classroom in Ohio.
Yep.
In Ohio that day. So yeah, feel free to check that out. But Paula, bringing it back to you from an educator's perspective, did you feel that classes like this became even more important during the pandemic? That, when at home schooling became the norm, distance learning, that like kids just needed some sort of like breath of fresh air in their life, and that these programs did it?
Absolutely. As lifelong learners, we learn to adapt, just as the plants and the animals do. But I will say this. So my sixth graders were feeling some kind of way, as the kids say, because they recognized that they could not go camping. They couldn't go on a field study out to the national parks. And they were like, oh, but your class last year got to go and we don't get to go, and blah, blah, blah. So through a grant, I was able to get an iPad. So I went out to Biscayne National Park, because it was closest to my house. I went out to Biscayne National Park with my hotspot and an iPad, and I took all of my classes on virtual tours. And it worked well for them. They were happy. I mean, they would still rather go camping, but at least they got to get a better understanding, and we were able to do some lessons virtually. I've gotten I was always pretty tech savvy, but I've got even more tech savvy through all of this. So we were able to do interactive labs online with the kids as I was, talking to them virtually. So we change as the environment changes, and they didn't mind doing the changes at all. And it was just essential. But I will say this. So my, just as an aside, my daughter will be a sixth grader this year. And she's already told me that she's not doing it virtually. She's going camping because Ranger Yvette says she has to go camping. and she has been waiting to go camping her entire life. And I want to tie this back into generational. Like I said before, my mom did all the camping with her students. I refused to go. I wish, in hindsight, I wish I had, she had pushed me. But I got over my fears and I go camping. And now my son goes camping. And now my daughter is going to go camping this February, knock on wood, if we get it.
I love it. I love in particular when girls get outdoors. I'm here for the ladies exploring the wilderness. Okay, so we talked about what went on this past year, but now let's talk about what's going to be coming up in the 21-22 school year. Yvette, what is this going to look like at the Everglades? Are you guys going to bring in some of the things that took place this past year? Are you going to transition back to a more traditional year? What does the upcoming school year look like for you guys?
Well, Katie, I will start by saying I wish I had a crystal ball, right? I don't, but we're still doing that A through Z and backwards, just in case. You see, we hope to do some sort of hybrid programming. We hope that some schools will be able to come out to the park. COVID restrictions will probably dictate how many students will be on buses. So maybe smaller groups, and that's okay. We're going to go ahead and start exposing students to the Everglades again in real life. But we're pretty positive that virtual education is not going to go away 100%, just because there's not going to be enough dates for smaller groups. So we have a couple of different plans in mind. If more students come, awesome. But again, we have a pretty certain that it's going to be a hybrid situation when we're going to have students in the park and we'll have students virtually, and that's okay. It's a great transition, and it'll give us an opportunity to really test both platforms. And like I said earlier, we want the students to come to the park, but realistically, you know, this is an awesome option. We connected to students all over the world. We spoke to students in London and in Spain and China this year. You know, that's amazing. And we know that that's valuable. So it's not going to go away. It's just seeing how we're going to fit it all in.
That is awesome. And Lisa, what about you and your team over at Big Cypress? You know, obviously there's no crystal ball. You know, things seem to be up and down all the time. We really don't know what's going to come. But in an ideal upcoming school year, what would be taking place with the Big Cypress educational program?
Well, of course, we're certainly hoping for in school and in the field, in person. That's what we're planning for, but we've got our iPads, we've got all our equipment from last year, we've got everything standing by in case we have to go that way. But school starts over here. The teachers are in their in-service week, the first week of August. That's when I go in and I meet with all of our swamp teachers, about 40 of them, to go over things, the planning, the logistics for the year. And that's when I will find out if they're going to be in person or not. So then I'll have a couple of months until my staff gets here and we actually start the programs in October. Either way.
Awesome. And Carrie, again, you know, you're just a few weeks on the job, so not to put any pressure on you, but is there any insider information you can give us about what to expect at Biscayne this coming year?
Well, yes, I am new to the area, but I just wanted to give a shout out with the educators. About 20 years ago, I met a pretty amazing woman. Her name is Sandy Dayhoff. So she came while I was working with the education program at Acadia. I also got to meet Ranger Alley during that time as well. So just know that the education programs that are in place here are just known throughout the National Park Service as being amazing examples of what can be done to reach youth. As far as Biscayne, the distance learning program that I mentioned is hopefully coming online, but my dream for this spring is to be able to take fourth graders on a boat to Elliott Key and offer programming there focused on our Keys ecosystem. So that is my hope, and hopefully we'll be able to offer that coming up this spring.
I hope so too. There's really nothing like getting out on the boat with the park rangers. It's such like a special feeling to like be out there with like just these tough rangers out in the wilderness of the water. But so obviously the environmental education program provides a lot of great opportunities for children, but Yvette, there was something that I heard you talk about a few months ago, and you actually just quickly, casually mentioned it earlier, but it's the Teacher Ranger Teacher program that is offered through the National Park Service that actually provides opportunities for teachers as well. So can you tell me like what that program is all about?
Absolutely. So the Teacher Ranger Teacher program is an internship for teachers in the summer months. It does take their entire summer, and they spend 11 weeks with us in the park. We really have the opportunity to showcase all 4 South Florida national parks. So Dry Tortugas isn't with us tonight, but we showcase their education program as well. And give them a behind the scenes, a good understanding of the science that happens in all 4 national parks. Also allowing them to experience not only as a teacher, as an educator, but as a kid again. Allowing them to get out into the resource and really having fun. Now, in return, what they do for us is they actually help us write curriculum. You see, we park rangers, we're in our natural world, and yeah, we can read the curriculum and we put together programs and we think we're doing the right thing and cool things, but the teachers are at the front line of what's relevant, what their students need, what they need in their classroom. And that relevancy goes farther than anything else. The moment we stop being relevant to what their teachers need, they don't need us anymore, right? So it's important to continue to support their work. So these Teacher Ranger teachers bring that insight as well. They help us to create new curriculum or give us ideas of things that we can create, or even take a look at what we are thinking of or what we have a blueprint of. And they say, yeah, this is a great idea. I've mentioned the Nike missile-based program. The Nike missile-based program was created over, I want to say 3 years of Teacher Ranger teachers, where we went this way and this way again to finally figure out what it was we wanted. And now it's such a successful program. So Teacher Ranger teachers are amazing. We've been doing this program for 11 years now, actually 12 years now. And we've had from 1 Teacher Ranger teacher up to 4 per summer, with the exception of this past summer, unfortunately, and this summer as well. So we've missed 2 years, but the internship wouldn't have been the same virtually, of course.
Sure, of course. But Paula, among your many accomplishments and experiences in the science education space, you actually were a Teacher Ranger teacher. So can you tell us what your experience was like in the program as an educator?
Yes, well, I was blessed twice. I got to do it 2 summers in a row. It was an amazing experience because Rangers have been my superheroes my entire life. So I got to don the uniform and I got to be a superhero for 2 summers. And it was not only, it was life-changing. It was an emotional roller coaster, because when you're that close to nature every single day, and I was, like I said, I was one of those people, like it pushed me out of my comfort zone completely. But it helped me to adapt. So I got to learn, I got to give back, because one of my fortes is writing curriculum. And so I was able to help the National Park Service with being able to do that. So they gave me something and I was able to give them something back. It was awesome.
That is so cool. So was there like a particular thing that you maybe learned in the Teacher Ranger teacher program that you came back and applied to the classroom?
Oh my gosh, it was a lot, because we really focused on the structure and function of animals and adaptations. And one of the things that I wanted to delve in was the connection to African-American history. So I got to learn some connections there as well between Everglades National Park and Biscayne. And so I have been able to include that in my lessons with my students. I'm also fortunate that right behind my school, and Carrie, hopefully you'll come out to our school one day because we're very close to you. We actually have a habitat right in the backyard. So we start there, we practice there in our little mini Everglades, and then we take what we learn out into Everglades National Park.
That is so awesome. Well, you guys, it really seems like these education programs are win-win situations for everybody, for the kids, for the teachers, for the national parks, for the local communities. I mean, I don't think that there's a downside to these programs at all. And of course, the Alliance is here to keep these programs around. As I mentioned at the top of the show, the Youth Environmental Education Programs is the biggest area of support that we provide to these parks year over year. And this year alone, we provided $500,000 in funding to the national parks for these programs. You guys, that's $500,000 to keep these kids educated about their natural world, to give them these immersive experiences, even when they cannot be out in the parks. We do what we can because we know that it's important to get these kids out there and to connect them to the world. I know that there's kind of this thought out there that like, well, national parks are these government spaces, they're run by the government, so they get all their money from their government. And like, yes, they do get money from the government, but a lot of that money is earmarked to really big projects that go to making the park itself functional, right? But what we do, what organizations like the Alliance do, is that we provide funding that create programs that connect the communities to the park. And you know, the parks really can't survive without them in like that cultural sense, right? You just have to have those deep ties to the parks, and that's what we are here to create. So again, this show and this series is totally free to participate, but you know, our organization works off of funding from everyday donors like you guys at home today. So again, if you heard anything tonight that inspires you and you would like to turn that inspiration into action in the form of a donation, we definitely welcome that. There is a donate button right on the right side of the screen that you're looking at, but you can always go to our website, floridanationalparks.org, and donate any time of day, any day of the week, any week of the year. We are here to take your donations at any time. And we're, of course, we welcome you to get involved in our organization in other ways and get involved in the parks in other ways too. So all of that being said, I know Yvette at the top, you kind of mentioned how folks can get in touch with you if they want to get involved in the educational program, but for someone that might not have been listening, can you just go over that again? If like a teacher wanted to bring their class to you virtually or in person, how would they get in touch with your team?
So you can call our education office, and that is 305-242-7753. Or if you prefer to send us an email, you can do that to ever, EVER, _education at NPS for National Park Service.org. So either one of those will work to get in touch with us, and we can get you what you need.
Thank you so much. And Lisa, what about you? Are folks able to get in touch with you if they want a little something in Big Cypress?
Yes, you can contact our office at 239-695-1164, or you can email me at Lisa_Andrews at nps.gov.
Thank you so much. And Carrie, what about you and the Biscayne program? How can folks get in touch with you about that?
Yes, we're working on getting our education mailbox set back up. So that will be available on our website probably in the next month or two. Contacting me directly is probably the best way right now. Carrie _Scott, CARRIE _SCOTT at nps.gov. So yeah, we look forward to getting in touch.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And for those of you at home, if you found us tonight, then you most likely already know how to get in touch with us. But just to reiterate, our website is floridanationalparks.org. You can reach us there all the time on all social media platforms. We are National Parks FL. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. More importantly, thank you guys for being allies to Florida's national parks. The next Parktails Summer Series will take place on August 26th and will be focused on invasive species. So mark your calendars, keep an eye out for more information on that. But in the meantime, thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you guys out on the trails, either in the swamp or out on the sea soon.